you want to be known as the crane removal 100-foot oak tree guy, right? Like that's what you want. You don't want your business to just be known as the tree company that you call when you need a tree removed. You want your business to be known as the pinnacle of technical expertise when it comes to removing dangerous trees.
You're not just climbing trees, you're climbing destiny.
What is going on, and welcome back to the Branching Out podcast. I'm your host, Justin Rademacher, and on this podcast, we talk about business growth and specifically how to grow your tree business. So today we're going to jump right on in, and I want to talk about the reason that business owners operate from fear. And a lot of what we talk about on this podcast applies to general business, even though we try to keep it very focused on tree service business. So if you stumbled across this and you run a business that is not a tree service company, just know that what we're going to talk about today absolutely will apply to the majority of businesses that we come across. And our business is no exception. So I think the most important thing to understand is that most business owners operate from fear. They operate out of a fear mindset. They hold their cards close to their chest. They don't want to share things like their processes or their standard operating procedures. They don't want to talk about their numbers. Even for us, like when we get on a phone and we ask for revenue numbers, they want to hold that very close to the chest. And understandably so, but they also don't talk about their systems because they think subconsciously, maybe even, that somebody's going to steal it and that somebody's going to be able to do what they're doing better. They're going to take away their revenue and put themselves out of business. I personally do not buy into that. I believe in abundance. I fully subscribe to the abundance mindset. I also believe that money follows value. And the more value that I can put out into the world, the more money that I will make. It's pretty simple math to me. This podcast is a great example of just putting value out there into the world. And I know that it will ultimately make me more money as opposed to keeping all these things secret. So today I want to break down abundance versus scarcity and why I share everything. We share all of our SOPs, our calculators, our playbooks, and why it works not just for me, but for tree service business owners as well. So the first thing that we'll talk about is the scarcity thinking. Scarcity is, I could define it as if you are scared of losing. If you think to yourself, if I put my prices online, my competitor is going to undercut me. If I share my process, customers might not need me, right? If I showed them how I would actually cut their trees or how I think about, handling a big removal or a pruning job. If I teach people too much, then they won't hire me. That's a lie. What actually happens is scarcity makes you look small. It makes you defensive. I know a lot of people have probably heard the phrase that competition happens at the bottom, collaboration happens at the top. And if you are hyper competitive and you're keeping all of your secrets close to the chest, it makes you look small. It puts you on the defense and it prevents you from innovating. In tree care, I think scarcity looks like hiding your prices online, giving one-word answers on estimates, not giving estimates or any sort of pricing over the phone, dodging questions from customers because you're worried that they're going to say no. That's super weak positioning. That's we'll call that Blockbuster thinking. You remember Blockbuster if you're at least my age. And what Netflix ended up doing to Blockbuster. We don't want that to happen to your business. So let's flip it. Abundance says, if I solve problems publicly, then more people will trust me. If I show people how I work, the right customers will want me even more. If I give value up front, the money is going to follow. That's the abundance mindset. And so I would encourage you to think about this. No homeowner is going to watch your crane removal video on Facebook and say, cool, let me go ahead and climb my own tree this weekend or go rent a crane and do this myself. They're not that's not reality. They're going to say, wow, these guys are pros. Let's give them a call. And it's just like in our business, right? If we get on a call with a potential client, call it a sales call, a discovery call, whatever you want to do. And we're going to give them the lay of the land. I'll tell them the secrets with how we run ad campaigns. I will show them how we build websites, how we do SEO. I will show them how we do organic social media posting, how we're leveraging AI, the systems and tools that we're using. I will literally give them the playbook on one of those calls. And what ends up happening is they hire us because they either A, say, wow, these guys really know what the hell they're doing, or B, this is a lot and I don't want anything to do with that myself. In any case, I think a lot of times we're competing in the tree service industry. We're competing on price against Chainsaw Charlie, right? Because from the homeowner's perspective, they see tree, they want tree gone, right? Okay, cheapest guy possible. But if they stumble across some of your content or they engage with your business and you're able to show them step by step exactly why you're going to charge them $3,500 to remove that tree that seems pretty simple, understanding that we need to protect the landscape, we need to protect, you have this fence over here, the shed, we need to protect all those things. That's why I have like liability insurance and all those things. If you're able to position that, the customer will say, wow, I didn't even consider that was an option. I didn't even consider that if you just drop it, it's going to break my irrigation system. And these are things that we need to educate homeowners on. And the only way that we get to do that is by operating from an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. Because when you keep everything close to the chest, it doesn't give you the opportunity to educate and bring value to your audience. So it's the same. Like I said, contractors, tree guys don't want to run their own ads. When I share my playbook, I will show the calculations. I will give away my SOPs. Nobody says, cool, I'll just go ahead and build my own agency, right? They say that these guys know what they're doing. Let's hire them. So maybe quick pause here. This whole episode is going to be about abundance and giving value. And like I said, I do practice what I preach. That said, at Arborist Marketing Pros, which is my agency, we've put together free resources for tree companies, everything from marketing checklists to ROI calculators, LTV to CAC calculators, SOP templates. There's no paywall. You don't have to put in your credit card information to get any of this. You just go to our website, arboristmarketingpros.com. If these tools will help you grow, that's awesome. And if you want a growth partner to take it further, that's where we can step in. And that's basically how abundance works. So if you're interested in having a one-on-one conversation, just go to the website and click on the schedule button and book a time. And I'd be personally happy to walk you through how to implement some of these strategies in your business. Okay, shameless self-plug. Back to what we're talking about here. The third thing we talked about, because we talked about scarcity, right? We talked about abundance mindset. And the third thing that I want to talk about is value, which is money follows value. And I believe this to my core. The bigger the problem that you solve, the bigger the paycheck at the end of the bigger the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, we'll say, right? Just like cutting a hedge is a small problem, removing 100-foot oak leaning over a house, that's a massive problem. So which one of those actually provides more value and pays more? The difficult one. And if you think about the biggest companies out there in the world, right? Getting to Mars is a very difficult problem to solve. And so the individual that got to solve that problem or is currently working on solving that problem gets a really big paycheck at the end of the year, right? And so that's how the biggest businesses in the world are built, solving difficult problems. In fact, I've followed a bunch of people over the years that's how they figure out how to open a business, is looking at what are the problems out there that nobody has come up with a solution for, or there's a better solution available and it's still a lot of friction in the process. And when you are able to share your expertise and when you lean into value, you're showing the market that you're the one that can solve the hard stuff. You want to be known as the crane removal 100-foot oak tree guy, right? Like that. That's what you want. You don't want your business to just be known as the tree company that you call when you need a tree removed. You want your business to be known as the pinnacle of technical expertise when it comes to removing dangerous trees. Let's talk about Netflix and Blockbuster, because I think that it is a very powerful cultural reference that most of us can understand. I think that, Blockbuster had a scarcity mindset. Their business model was to nickel and dime people with late fees, limit the access, and squeeze every penny. You probably remember this. If you owed Blockbuster money, you couldn't rent a video, and customers hated it. They absolutely hated it. At some point, they were charging fees if you didn't rewind the VHS tape. I am that old. If you didn't rewind the VHS tape, you would have to pay a fee. And customers hated it, but that was their business model. That's how they made money. Netflix came in with an abundance mindset. Now, I'm also old enough to remember that Netflix wasn't a streaming company. Netflix was a literal DVD by mail company, VHS tape by mail company. They had one low monthly price. There was no late fees. You could watch anything at any time. They solved the bigger problem. Netflix won. Every time Netflix wins, technology is undefeated. Netflix also had this abundance mindset. They pivoted when they realized that there's a better way. When the internet thing came along, they were already doing very well. Netflix was. They had the mail order video rental thing down pat. They could have stuck their head in the sand, like I see a lot of business owners doing, stuck their head in the sand and dug in and said, this is our business model. We are the mail-in DVD company, right? But that's not what they did. The internet and the ability to start streaming online became very popular, and Netflix said, we need to pivot and allow even less friction and even provide more convenience by setting up a streaming application. And they invested untold amounts of money to make this happen. But at the end of the day, Netflix is still around, bigger and stronger than ever, and Blockbuster is something that we have to remember fondly in our memories. I say all that to say that it's the same in tree care, right? Like a Blockbuster style company, it's going to hide its prices. It's going to make everything complicated, and you're going to try to nickel and dime and squeeze every single customer. Whereas a Netflix company is transparent. It's going to show the process. It's going to educate customers on what they're doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it. And it makes it super easy for the customer, for the homeowner or the commercial client. Which one would you hire? Right. I know for me, we live in an age of transparency. When I go to buy a car, I go in knowing exactly which vehicle I want, how all the features work, or most of the features, what I'm expected to pay. And that way, when I go there, I'm not going to get, we'll call it screwed over because it's my podcast. I can say what I want. So I'm not going to get screwed. So why sharing everything works here. This is why I share everything. This is why I share the SOPs. I'm writing a book right now. Matter of fact, in the process of writing a book, I am writing a book on, tree company marketing and how to basically win online. And in the process of doing so, I had surveyed a lot of my friends on Facebook about the cover design. And I had a few different variations. And so somebody messaged me. I had actually had two of these messages. Two people messaged me and said, dude, I hope that you don't give away all of your secrets in the book. And I get a lot of, I have a lot of Facebook pages that are assigned to me. I get a ton of Facebook messages. I try to reply, but I'm not very good at that channel, just to be candid. If you need to get a hold of me, text message is best. Email is a secondary, just FYI. But I did have a couple of messages come in on Facebook, and they basically were scarcity mindset questions, or they were more specifically scarcity mindset statements. They were warnings. Don't give away too much. It's going to hurt your business. And for both of these individuals, I sent back a novel of a response, like a crazy ex-girlfriend response, right? Like about how the reason that I'm writing a book is to give away the secrets. It is to let people know, the person that's running the tree company business that wants to do their own marketing, let them know what's all involved. If you wanted to compete with Arborist Marketing Pros, these are the things that you would have to do. What will inevitably happen is there will be some business owners that will take that, and instead of paying me, they will run their own ads. And I am here for that, because I know that there's also going to be a disproportionately large amount of business owners that will say either A, man, these guys know what the hell they're doing, because they see all the documentation, they see all the processes, they see how we think about marketing and how we're trying to make sure that we're spending their money in the proper places. Or there's going to be people that are going to read this and say, no way in hell am I going to do all this. I thought that marketing meant that I press the boost post button on Facebook. I'm not going to write meta descriptions on all of my pages on my website that, I have to build on WordPress. I'm not going to do any of that. And when they understand that, they look at our fee, and instead of saying, oh my gosh, that's a huge amount of money, they understand that's actually a great value. Because if I was going to do this myself, I would spend way more money on my own salary than what I would be spending to have these guys do it for me. So that's part of the main reason why we just give everything away. The DIY crowd, they weren't gonna hire me anyway, right? But the serious business owners, the decision makers, the ones who want to grow, they see that and they say, this is who I want in my corner. And it's this it doesn't matter what the business is. I just gave you the marketing example because that's the one that I can speak most confidently about, but it does not matter what the business is. It's the same for tree guys. Share your safety checklist. Post your gear list, explain your price ranges, why you would charge so much more if it was a crane job, or why you would charge so much more if it gets really technical and you have to do the tree in very small sections. Educate the customer, because the right clients we're not competing for the people that are going to hire Chainsaw Charlie. The right clients are going to respect you more, not less. I've been trying to keep our podcast episodes a little bit shorter, just as they're more digestible, maybe in between jobs, if you're in the truck or if you're in the gym in the morning, however you want to listen to this. I want to keep our episodes a little bit shorter. So I'm going to wrap in closing. And I just want to remind everybody that scarcity, even though it feels good because we're getting to pet that little fear dragon that we have in us, it keeps you broke. Abundance, giving everything away, makes you rich. If you want to grow your business, stop hiding, stop hoarding, and start solving big problems in public. You should be sharing your processes, share your story, share your value, and watch how much money really starts chasing you in. If you want to see how I put this into practice, head over to our website, Arbor's Marketing Pros, and all of my best tools are available for grab, because when you win, we all win. And appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.